Welcome in, baseball fans, to another episode of Around the State at PBR, a Prep Baseball Alabama podcast. Obviously, discussing everything relative to high school baseball. The biggie is that we are releasing as we do each week, releasing our 1A through 7A top 10 and our Power 25. It's hard to believe for some schools it's already spring break. And then spring break will follow the next few weeks for some other schools across the state. But
some schools have even started area play already.
You're right. Crazy. Some have started area play, and it's
when it gets here, it flies by.
Amen. And that's I guess what I was thinking of the words to say is that it rolls right along. We're getting into the meat of the season, that important time of the season. We've talked about that the last couple of weeks. Man, how are you, Austin?
I'm good. It was had the East Alabama Classic this past week. Had some torrential rains on Friday night, and it rained all through Saturday morning, but was able to play all games on Thursday and most of Friday, I think. And then Saturday, some games got banked, but there were still some good ones to go watch down here in the Auburn and Phoenix City area. Some good teams down here: Hewitt, Trussville, Tuscaloosa County. Helena was down here. They obviously played at host sites at Auburn, Central Phoenix City, Opelika.
Checky dog behind you.
Yeah, Opelika and Smith Station. So got to see a lot of baseball this week on top of being in the Gulf Shores area, or in the Mobile area for a few days, getting to watch some baseball down there. So busy week of baseball, and it's going to continue to stay busy as we've got our North Alabama Showdown coming up this weekend.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I was gonna touch on.
We got 109 in here off the rip.
109 already. That's awesome. I guess some of that is spring break people, and I guess that's just some people not paying attention in class. They'd rather, I guess, pay attention here. We'll keep that on the down low. As always, before I forget this, if you've got questions or comments, please add those in the comment box out to the side. We'll get those out there, talk about them. We obviously know that most of you are here to see the updated 1A through 7A rankings, and we love to get those out every week. But before we do, just a couple things to talk about. Austin mentioned the North Alabama Showdown that will be going on this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll talk about some of those teams. We'll talk about that schedule and those teams here in just a little bit. Matter of fact, Austin, if you want to pull that schedule up, if you don't have it, and then
I've got it.
Okay, if you've got it, well, go ahead and before he goes, the North Alabama Showdown will be this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Obviously, we run the Kickoff Classic in Central Alabama, the South Alabama Showdown in Gulf Shores, Robertsdale, Orange Beach area, and this week we'll be running the North Alabama version of that at James Clemens and Hazel Green High Schools. So Austin, go ahead and give us the schedule there. We did have a cancellation, so we've got some teams coming, which really, we lost a Kentucky team, but we're able to get more Alabama teams in, which we're pretty excited about.
Yeah, good for us. We added Hartselle, added Hueytown and Muscle Shoals. Now, all those teams won't play all three games. They're kind of spread out throughout the day. One's playing one game here, the other one on Friday, other one on Saturday. So action gets started on Thursday, March 14th at 1:30. You've got Grissom at James Clemens. At Hazel Green, you have Sparkman at Hazel Green. At James Clemens at 4:00, we have Hartselle at James Clemens. At Hazel Green, you have Decatur Heritage and Hazel Green. And then the lone nightcap on day one at 6:30 at James Clemens. You have Father Ryan out of Tennessee. They'll be facing off against Grissom. Then you look at Friday, day two of the event at Hazel Green, just 1:30 game. That's Grissom at Hazel Green. At James Clemens at 4:00, you have Decatur Heritage and James Clemens. At Hazel Green, you have Florence at Sparkman. And then looking at the two 6:30 games at James Clemens, we have Father Ryan out of Tennessee playing James Clemens. and then Muscle Shoals against Hazel Green. And then on Saturday, just three games during the day, and those games will all be at James Clemens. So just a total of 3 games on Saturday. So at 10 o'clock, we have Sparkman and Hueytown. At 12:30, we have Father Ryan out of Tennessee and Decatur Heritage. And then rounding it up, we have Sparkman closing it out with Father Ryan at 3 o'clock. So
that should be some good baseball this week. Obviously, some very good teams from North Alabama, and even into the Birmingham area, Hueytown coming up. So that's going to be good baseball this week. We're looking forward to it. We do hope that Mother Nature helps us out. Friday looks a little iffy right now, but that could change. But we'll see how that goes moving forward. A few things before I said, before we get into our rankings, in case you've missed it, we have released our summer schedule for this coming summer. We have several Rising Stars events throughout the state, and those are geared towards the younger kids, the 28s and 29s. If you want to throw that slide up, Austin, or you want to,
let's talk about the Yellowhammer State games first.
And within that schedule, in years past, we've had 3 invite-only events, and this year we're only having 1 invite-only event, and it is a premier event. It is called the Yellowhammer State Games. It will be June 18th and 19th at Sand Mountain Park in Albertville. It is a 2-day event. We are going to cap it at 150 players. We're going to have 12 teams of players. There'll be around 12 players on a team. All players will go through a pro-style positional workout the morning of June the 18th. And then everyone will play a game that day. We'll have access to all 3. We'll have access to 3 fields there in Albertville. So we'll have games going on simultaneously. And then on the following day, on Wednesday, June the 19th, all players will get another game as well. So this is something that we're really pumped about. It's not going to be as big as the Future Games, but if you're following along here and you've been to the Future Games, it's going to be a Future Games type feel within the state. We're going to have some vendors there and trying to get a DJ booked to be there. And I will say this. Players are going to get a little bit more this year. They're not just going to get a shirt. All players that register will get 2 shirts. Those shirts will be a little bit different. They will wear one on one day and one the following day. They'll also get a hat for the Yellowhammer State Games, and then we've got a little surprise that we'll release later that all the players will get as well when they sign in on Tuesday. So this is going to be a mega event. It is the first day after a college dead period, an NCAA dead period as well. So, how many college coaches are going to be there? We have no clue, but I do know that we're approaching 50 players already registered, and man, we have got some elite talent already signed up, and I'm sure that's going to continue to evolve as we get closer. So that's go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all. Just a mega event, and we kind of, the state games has been going on around in some other states for prep baseball, and we've had 3 or 4 invite-only events over the summer, and they've been kind of spread out. No real kind of target for we're just trying to find an open date. Honestly, just with our invite-only events for the past few summer, but we feel like with the state games, man, it creates just one event where it's at arguably one of the best facilities in the state of Alabama, and you've got the top 2025 through 2028 prospects all in one place, and there will be college coaches there, and got some big names already signed up. It's going to be a huge event. And we couldn't be more pumped about it. It's been in the works for quite some time now, and a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on. And still will be. There's a lot more. If you've been to a PBR showcase in the past, this event will be much different. You'll get more. It'll be such a better experience. So we're pumped about it this summer, and can't wait. So if you're interested, request an invite. If you have your invite, don't sit on it, because like you said, we're probably a third of the way with registrations. So if you wanting to attend, you have your invite, go ahead and get signed up. So we can go ahead and shift into our full summer schedule.
Yeah, and you see that schedule there. As always, maybe someone wants to attend the Yellowhammer State games, and it just doesn't work where their schedule doesn't allow them to be there. All of our events will be identifiers for the future games. And I guess one thing we need to mention, Austin, the future games this year, and we've talked about this and we've put this out there, it has changed a little bit this year. This coming summer, the future games, the format has changed. The 2025 class, if you are uncommitted, we have added a 2025 class, 2025 future games. What that's going to be called, I don't know yet. It may be the senior future games. I don't know. But the recruiting landscape, as all of you know, has changed drastically. And there are a lot of 25s, quality 25s that are still on the board. And this will give those 25 grads a chance to be seen in front of the 300 plus college coaches that will be at the future games. So
It'll be more. I'm sure it'll be more than 350 this year.
yeah,
When you add in the 17s, you can bring in. I mean, if you were a D2 or an NIA or a JUCO, and you really, I mean, at that point in time, you really didn't have much of a chance with those high level uncommitted prospects going into their junior season, just because all the D1s were there. But now you add in those uncommitted prospects going into their senior season. I can't imagine how many are going to be there now. I think it's a great decision, going to be a great addition to the future games.
no doubt. And let's just say that, and he mentioned the 25 class, then the 26s, which is the future games that we've always had. And then we have done away with the smaller, the youngest age division, and the junior futures, we will only take one age division, the 28s. Now we will sprinkle some deserving 29s in there if they are deserving. So again, just to reiterate, we'll have the 2025s, the 2026s, and then the 2028s. Now, the 27s, if there are some guys that need to go in the 27s, they'll go, but we can talk about that later. But again, let's go back to what I was mentioning here. What if your schedule doesn't allow you to attend the Yellowhammer State games? Well, that doesn't mean that you can't make it to the junior futures, or senior futures. There are you see all of our lists, our summer schedule for this year. Those Rising Stars ID, they are for the 28 and 29 classes. That is a great way to get your profile started with prep baseball. Also, you will be evaluated for the junior futures. And then you see all of the other summer ID events. Those every event that we run, we want to make sure of this. Every event that we run will be an identifier for the future games, the junior future games, the senior future games, and even the prep baseball All-American game, which we'll be releasing later, and it will be in September. But the All-American game this year will pit the 2025s versus the 2026s. We're talking about elite, high-level guys there that could be picked and going on to the All-American game. But that's the best of the best. So you see that summer schedule there. That is on our website. You look at July the 9th, we will be going to Tuscaloosa. That location has yet to be determined. We hope to get that done over the next week. So again, that's just looking ahead briefly to the summer, our events, and then our big one is the Yellowhammer State games. Obviously, that carries a lot of weight in terms of the future games selection. But again, if you can't make it, you've got other avenues to do so. Before we get into the polls, just to recap real quick, this week we know the Gulf Coast Classic's going on. I'm sitting here following a game right now on my phone on Game Changer. So a lot of baseball to be played today. As you know, we're fixing to release our class polls. They will be released on our social media channels later today. This is the first way to find out who is ranked. Tomorrow we will release our Mizuno pitcher.
I think everybody's found out that this is the best way to find out.
Look
You
at
got
that.
416 people in here. I think we've had the last 7 episodes is like 110, 120.
That is awesome, man. That's awesome. We appreciate each and every one of you tuning in.
If you've got a question or a comment, feel free to drop it in the comments too.
Yeah, don't be shy. Then tomorrow we will release our Mizuno pitcher and player of the week. That's on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the Diamond Notes will come out. Some other guys that maybe aren't picked for pitcher and player of the week that are deserving of a mention. We'll get that out on Wednesday. Our continuous scout blog that we do every week will continue throughout this week. We will have a preview for the Prep Baseball North Alabama Showdown. That'll be coming out later this week as well, so be on the lookout for that. Austin gave us the schedule for that event here just a few minutes ago. Before we get into it, man, Austin and I have spent a lot of time on the phone with Shooter Hunt of late. Man, we are really high on the talent level in the state of Alabama this year, and that is shown at the very top of some of the guys that we think may have a chance to have their name called pretty early this year in the MLB draft. You agree, Austin?
Yeah, I agree. I think those. I mean, there's probably 5 or 6 that have a pretty legitimate case to hear their name. I mean, obviously Carter Johnson, Carter Gatwood, Christian Chatterton, Henry Allen, Jackson Sanders, and then you're going to add in who you think, who has made a huge splash onto the scene in Alabama this spring so far, moving in from Mississippi, Bub Terrell, outfielder. You saw him this past weekend. Thompson at Bob Jones, and I saw you put together your clip of hits, and it was like a 50-second long video. Those swings are physical. He is athletic. It is. You probably couldn't build a prospect to look much better than Bub Terrell right now, and he's producing.
And people know how much we love Carter Johnson, but I'm telling you, Bub Terrell. That's Demarion Terrell, just so you know. But Bub Terrell, man, he's making a serious splash with professional scouts across the country. And I see why. It's first time, our kickoff classic, I just wasn't able to see him because I was at other venues. This was the first time I saw him in person, and wow. I mean, I had seen the videos and had talked to some professional scouts about how easy the juice was, how easy the power was. And the first at bat when I get there on Saturday, boom, leaves the yard just foul for a home run. I mean, it's foul, but he left the yard, comes back, doubles down the right field line. And then like his next 3 or 4 at bats, man, he showed the ability to not just be a big, heavy pull side juice guy. He gets balls middle away and just hammers them to the backside, man. And it's easy. I love how he sits in the box and those hands are just nice and loose. I mean, there's nothing high energy about it. It's just nice and easy with the barrel. The barrel gets through the zone. Man, I'm telling you, I was impressed with him. I could go on and on and on, but again, showed the ability to go pull side power and then bam, just lasers to the backside when needed. And Austin's trying to pull some video up there. I think he's 6'3", 206 pounds, hits out of the leadoff spot. Just easy athleticism across the board, man. He's obviously one to follow. There's the pull side bomb that he just missed. Here's the laser double down the right field line. You can see him out of the box, just athletic, man. And then I think the next at bat, he just glides. And I don't know if you'll be able to get the next one, but there's that laser to the backside there. It's just easy, man. It's easy. And man, I just left impressed. And there's another one to the backside. So that was not the same. I think here's another laser to the backside as well. That was 3 straight at bats. He goes backside laser. So again, man, really impressive. And that speaks to the talent level in Alabama, man. We've got some guys that have a chance to have their names called fairly early. And I'm not talking top 3 or 4 picks, but I'm talking top 3 or 4 or 5 rounds. Yeah, no doubt about it. So with that, man, I guess we'll go ahead and get started.
That number keeps growing. I don't know. It ain't gonna stop. I've been waiting to see if it's gonna stop. But yeah, we can go ahead and get into our class 7A through 1A polls as we go into week 4 of the season. Obviously, like we do every week, we'll start in class 1A. Get a new number 1 in class 1A this week, and we've got a new number 1 in a few classifications as all these teams continue to get more games under their belt. We're able to see more teams, and look more into who have they beaten, who have they been beaten by, how much have they been beaten by, just stuff like that. So getting into 1A, we have one new team inside the top 10, and they are at number 10, and that's Spring Garden, who sits at 3-1. They went 2-1 this past week and sit at 3-1. And number 9 is Leroy, who slides down a spot. They went 2-1 this past week, but that's sliding down a spot. That's mostly because of the production those teams behind them got and kind of leapfrogged them. At number 8, you've got Summerton Christian, who also slides down a spot. They went 0-1 and sit at 5-3. At number 7, you have Sweetwater. Sweetwater jumps up a pair of spots. They sit at 6-4 and went a perfect 3-0 this past week. At number 6 is Brantley, the state runner-up from last year in Class 1A. They went 2-1 this past week. They sit at 3-2, and you're probably thinking they went 2-1 and they dropped 2 spots. Well, their one loss was to Florala, who was 6. It was a big matchup. We kind of talked about it last week, Florala and Brantley, in that 1A matchup early in the week. Florala was able to win that. So Brantley comes in at 6. At number 5, Billingsley stays put there. They went 0-0 this week and sit at 3-3. Speaking of Florala, they jump up from 6-4. They sit at 3-1. I think you said their one loss was to a Florida team. So they're 3-0 in the state, but they sit at 3-1. At number 3 is Hackleburg. Hackleburg slides down 1 spot after going 1-2 on the week. They sit at 5-4. And then after holding the top spot in Class 1A and winning the 1A state championship last year, Appalachian drops down from 1 to 2 after going 2-1 this past week, and not really just because of that loss that they slid down. I mean, we'll talk about the number 1 team here in a minute and the resume that they've built, but Appalachian's strong once again this year. Should be big factors once again to make it back to Oxford and Jacksonville in Class 1A. They sit at 6-1, and then taking over the top spot, continuing to reel off big wins. That's Millery, who sits at 12-0. They went a perfect 4-0 this past week, and they take over the top spot. And I will say, it's a lot of these 1A teams won't have great records because you look at, they have to play classifications higher than them. They can't. You look at, if Millery's going 12-0, they play quality competition. I hope that made sense. The 1A, you're probably going to have to play the 2As, the 3As, other 1A teams. Not like a 6A team going down and playing a 2A or 3A team. So Millery takes over this top spot. They were number 3 last week, but jump up 2 spots. They sit at 12-0. So that's our new number 1 team in Class 1A. Looking at teams just outside the top 10, you have Barry, who sits at 0-2. Calhoun is still 0-0. Coosa Christian is 4-8. Galesville is that one team that dropped out of the top 10 this week. They sit at 8-1. Lynn is 2-2. Victory Christian is 5-2, and Winterboro is 3-2.
So jumping to 2A, we've got the same number 1 team from last week. We do have one new team, and they come in at number 10. That's Collinsville. They come in with an impressive 8-1 record, and it's a team that we targeted last week. And Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, they beat Donahoe, correct?
They beat Donahoe 3 games.
Yes, and that's impressive because we know Donahoe is very good. So that really caught our eye. Collinsville, again, make their initial appearance at number 10 with a record of 8-1. Lindsay Lane, they stay at number 9. They went 3-0 last week. I know they beat Colbert Heights, and I forget who else they beat, but they come in at 10-2.
Tanner.
Tanner, that's right, in an area series. That's right. So they sit at number 9. At staying put at number 8 is Mars Hill Bible. They went 3-1 last week. They sit at 6-4, and we've talked about their strength of schedule in weeks past. Wicksburg, man, they seem to be a team on the rise in 2A. Wicksburg jumps up from 10-7 this week. They went 1-0 last week, but they do sit at 9-2. And we talked about last night when we were getting these rankings about some of the teams they beat. Man, they beat some really some quality teams that are obviously a classification higher than them. At number 6, Whitesburg Christian jumps a spot. They did not play a game last week. You have to remember rain got some of the days last week. I know Tuesday and I think Friday, a lot of the state was washed out, or maybe Monday. I can't remember. It was 2 days last week. But Tuscaloosa Academy takes a jump from 6-5. They went 1-0 last week. They come in with a record of 6-3. That's Tuscaloosa Academy. The top 4 remained the same this week, and that's 4 perennial. Well, I don't think you can say Pike Lib is a perennial power yet because they're just in their second year in AHSAA, but they were a perennial power in the AISA division, and now they seem to be doing the same thing in 2A. GW Long stays put at number 4 with a 5-4 record, and that's one of the toughest teams we have on getting a correct record. We hope
not even this year, last year, man.
It's hard.
We gotta scrub websites, go look at other teams' game changers, see how.
So they're making
we think the 5-4. We think the 5-4 is right.
Yeah. And then their area rival Ayrton stays at 6-3. I think they had a big win this week against Shelby County. I believe that was right.
Yeah, 10-0.
10-0. Yeah, Vincent continues to churn along. The 2A runner-ups a year ago. They went 1-1 this week. They come in with a record of 9-2. And Pike Lib, as we just mentioned, with that jump from AISA last year, they went 3-0 again this week and sit at a perfect 10-0 and keep that top spot yet another week. Some of the teams outside the top 10 in 2A to keep an eye on: Fayetteville comes in with a record of 4-6. North Sand Mountain, the Bison, are at 5-4. Reeltown at 8-2. Southeastern is 4-3, a team that I saw a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Had a good year last year. Bayshore Christian stays on that outside cusp looking in. They're at 5-5. Winston County is at 5-2. Pleasant Valley's at 7-2. Hatton is 10-4. And then rounding out the groups to keep an eye on, Donahoe. They are the lone team that fell out this week after losing those 3 games to Collinsville. But, we do expect Donahoe to find their way back in. They do sit at 2-4 and round us out in 2A.
Jumping into Class 3A, we have one new team, and they are the number 10 team this week, and that is Fayette County. Fayette County sits at 8-4, and they went 2-0 this past week, and they're in that tough area with Gordo and in that central part of the state. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in area play, but getting off to a good start here early in the spring. Number 7 through 9 stay the same. Westbrook Christian went 2-0 this week and sit at 4-3. At number 8 is Thomasville. They went 1-1 and sit at 6-3. Lauderdale County went 2-1. They sit at 3-2. At number 5 and 6, we flip-flop these teams. St. James comes in at number 6. They sit at 7-4. They went 2-2 this past week. Sliding up a spot, replacing them is Providence Christian, who went 1-2, but they had the head-to-head win this past week over St. James. So that was kind of the decision to flip-flop those teams. It's different if you have a head-to-head team and one of them's ranked number 3 in the class. One of them's ranked number 3 in the top 10. The other one's outside the top 10. You can't just immediately throw that team and jump them up to like number 4. But head-to-head kind of factors when they're so close. Like you looked last week, Providence Christian was number 6, St. James was number 5. You have that head-to-head. St. James probably had the better record on the week with Providence Christian going 1-2, but that head-to-head has to factor in when they're so close together. So, so that's Providence Christian sits at number 5. At number 4, and probably a lot of those people are going to save that quote for when we get to 7A.
I was about to say, are you foreshadowing something?
Yeah, I know. At number 4, we have Gordo. They stay put at number 4 after going 3-1 this past week. They sit at 5-4. Swapping spots this week is Piedmont and Prattville Christian. Piedmont slides down a spot to number 3 after going 2-2 on the week. They're one loss. Both of their losses came to the Grange out of Georgia, who's a perennial strong program in Georgia, and then Alexandria. So
and that was a walk-off, wasn't it? Wasn't it a walk-off loss to Alexandria?
Yep. So 2 losses, but two quality losses for Piedmont. They come in at number 3 this week. At number 2, sliding up a spot is Prattville Christian after going 2-1 this past week, and then staying put in the top spot. A team we'll get to see this week in our North Alabama Showdown, Decatur Heritage. They go 2-1 this week and sit at 7-2. Some teams to look outside the top 10 in Class 3A. You have Excel, who's 5-2. Hoax Bluff is that one team who dropped out from this week's poll. They sit at 5-4. New Brockton continues to put together strong wins. They sit at 10-4. Ohatchee is 5-3. Winfield is 8-5. W.S. Neal is 8-6. Vinemont is 10-3, and then Houston Academy sits at 3-5.
And we'll jump right into 4A. And in 4A, we've got one new team, and we do have a new number 1 in 4A. Let's take a look at those teams in the top 10 in 4A. Sliding down one spot is Munford. Munford comes in at number 10. They went 1-1 last week. They currently sit with a 9-2 record. At number 9, there's that new team this week, Orange Beach. The Makos have rolled off really impressive wins, and we talked, and as we were putting these lists together, those losses are quality losses as well. I think Tuscaloosa County was one of them, and a couple others. So the Makos,
Hueytown, and Saraland.
Wow, you're right. That's 3. Obviously, schools that are larger than them, quality baseball programs. So Orange Beach is getting it done at 7-3. They come in at number 9. Deschler stays put at number 8. They went 1-2 this week, but I know I believe they played Florence and someone else. Again, there's that strength of schedule. At number 7, American Christian. Man, we discussed the middle of this 4A poll in depth. Because you look at American Christian's record at 3-7, they went 1-2 this week. How can they be ranked? Man, they're playing all of the larger schools. They're playing Tuscaloosa County. I know you're going to try to see them later this week. Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa.
They play Oak Mountain. Play at Oak Mountain Wednesday in a doubleheader.
Yeah, you'll see what we think of Oak Mountain here in just about 5 or 10 minutes, probably. American Christian, man, that schedule is a gauntlet in 4A. So, don't look at that record and think, how are they ranked? Their strength of schedule is as strong, maybe the strongest in 4A, possibly. I don't want to. Yeah.
But at some point, you have to win. It's kind of we've seen it with you look at Hoover and 7A. You can play a great schedule, and that's going to prepare you for the end of the season. But looking at rankings, at some point you have to win some of those games. The good teams always find a way to win. But there's no doubt American Christian is one of the top 7 to 8 teams in Class 4A. I think we would agree.
Yeah, and you say at some point you got to win. Those wins may come when it's the most important time. And, that's why you schedule those teams. So staying put at number 6 after going 1-0 this week, Etowah Blue Devils, the defending state champs. There's another team that'll play anybody, anywhere. Number 5, jumping up a couple spots from number 7 last week. They went 3-1 on the week. Trinity Presbyterian jumps up to number 5 with a 9-4 record. Westminster stays at number 4. With an impressive 7-3 record. We talked about it last week with some wins over some quality 7A opponents. Also got a big first their first area series this past week and swept the first 2 games, so they're in a good spot. At number 3, Corner stays put there after going 2-1 this week. Corner sits at 9-3. That, and we've talked about it, those top 3 arms they've got can give anybody fits. We did flip-flop number 1 and number 2, and you know how highly we think of Bayside Academy. Bayside Academy went 1-1 on the week. I believe that one loss was it Mobile Christian or
Baker?
Baker, that's right. Yeah, Baker. And I think maybe they had a lead late and Baker tied it up. But they did go 1-1 this week. Bayside comes in at 7-3. And then at number 1, the Choctaws of Bibb County come in with a perfect 12-0 record. One of our scouts was able to see them this week down in the Terry Sykes tournament at Troy and came away very impressed. And Bibb County's been there. It seems like every year they're in the top 4 or 5 from the beginning to the end.
As long as you got a cash on the roster.
Well, there's a little one too, so maybe I don't know if he's playing baseball or not. I think he is. So
he is. He was in their preview. He was in their team preview.
Gotcha. Well, they may have another little cash is on the way. So, but again, Bibb County, that's an impressive 12-0 record. The teams outside the top 10 in 4A, Andalusia at 5-5, Cleburne County at 7-0. Hamilton is at 11-3, but they are really bolstered by some
about to hit a big number. There it is.
1,000. Wow. Thanks to all of you.
They may all be bots. I don't know how we.
Well, a third of them might be happy here just a little bit. We'll see. But Hamilton, bolstered by some young talent, sitting at 11-3. Madison County, the Tigers are 9-1. Had a big win over Hazel Green this past week that I was at. Jake Thornton gives them a solid ace at the top of their rotation. They had some Hamilton and Madison County both had, we discussed them about possibly being ranked this week. Well, we'll see how that plays out. North Jackson, the Chiefs coming at 7-4. Cherokee County at 9-4. Dale County at 8-2. And then Brooks, they were the one team that dropped out. They come in with a record of 4-5. But again, a team to keep your eye on in 4A.
Jumping into Class 5A, we've got 2 new teams. And last week we kind of talked, I can't remember if we said it on the podcast, but we said internally, there were a lot of teams outside the top 10 who kept on winning. But then the teams inside the top 10 who are consistent year in, year out, making deep runs. And, we kind of gave it one more week to see, let those, if those teams kept losing or kept struggling, and those teams behind them kept winning, that there would be some movement, and that's kind of what happened. So we got a little bit of a shuffle here in Class 5A, some new faces in there, and in there pretty high. But looking at the top 10, starting at number 10, St. Paul's Episcopal stays in there. They went 1-1 this past week. God, I'm blanking on their one win. I was at their one loss where they got beat by Mary G. Montgomery.
I'll look
anyways.
it up. Yeah.
But they sit at 6-7. At number 9 is Shelby County. Shelby County slides down one spot. They went 2-1 this past week. Played in the Terry Sykes tournament down in Dothan. That one loss to Ayrton. At number 8 is Headland. Headland slides down 3 spots. They went 0-1 this week. They sit at 3-6. And that one loss came to Bibb County.
St. Paul's beat UMS Wright.
Yeah, that's right. 2-0.
Yeah.
But Headland's one loss in the week was to Bibb County, that number 1 team in Class 4A we just alluded to. At number 7 and number 6, two big splashes this week in the rankings. 2 teams who make their debut. At number 7 is Springville, who sits at 9-2. They went 2-0 this past week. And then at number 6 is Elmore County, who sits at 7-1. You look at Elmore County. They've beaten Pike Road. They've beaten Holtville. They've beaten a lot of teams. And I forget their one loss, but it was to a solid team. But I think Holtville, Elmore County, and Valley are scheduled to play maybe tomorrow. So and Valley, who we'll talk about here in a minute, is also 10-1. So that'll be a good matchup to go to.
Speaking of about to play, Springville's about to play Hewitt Trustful this week, I believe. So
Yeah.
that'll be a good barometer for them as well.
Yeah. They've already played Briarwood Christian too, so they've got some good wins. Both those teams do. So Elmore County's at 6, Springville's at 7. At number 5 is Sardis, sliding down one spot after going 2-1 this past week. 2-2 this past week. Both those losses were to James Clemens. And then do you remember their wins?
They beat Madison Academy, and I can't remember the other one, but they did beat Madison Academy. And I'll tell you this, I was there Friday night for Sardis's game. Man, that is a physical-looking group, and they are not – they're missing some arms at the top of their rotation that are going to be back really quick. It's not like season-ending arms. So look for Sardis to get it going. I mean,
yeah.
So Sardis, their area rival is right above them. Sardis and Boaz, man.
I know. I felt kind of wrong putting them putting right beside each other. But at number 4, Boaz continues to have some early season success, making their debut at number 10 2 weeks ago. They jumped up to number 6 last week, and then this week they jump up to number 4. They sit at 9-0, still undefeated with that 9-0 record after going 2-0 this week. At number 3, we have Mobile Christian, who slides down a spot. They went 0-2, losses to McGill Tulane and Faith Academy, two 6A teams, and those are the type teams that Mobile Christian is going to play on their schedule. And then at number 2, swapping spots with Mobile Christian is Gulf Shores. The Dolphins went 4-0 this past week and seem to be playing some really strong baseball going into the Gulf Coast Classic, sitting at 12-4. And then staying at the top spot is Alexandria, who went 2-1 last week. They sit at 8-4. And then that one loss, man, that's one game that I was jealous that I was not at this past week. Alexandria fell to the hands of Oxford in their county tournament at Chocolaco Park. We were both following that game all game long.
11 innings.
Yeah, 11 innings. It was Judd Sire had the walk-off hit in the 11th inning, won 2-1. Trip Patterson going for Alexandria on the mound. And then R.J. Brooks for Oxford, and then you bring in Carter Johnson. Just looked like just a great game to be at. High intensity with those teams so close to each other playing for the county championship. So not going to punish Alexandria for losing a 1-run game in 11 innings to the number to a top 3 team in Class 6A. Didn't want to give it away. So looking at teams just outside of the top 10 in Class 5A, you have Demopolis at 4-2. Marbury is 7-4 after going 3-0 this past week. Moody sits at 7-5. Rehoboth continues to roll off wins. They're another team outside the top 10 who's knocking on the door. They went 3-0 this past week and sit at 9-3. Russellville is 7-6. Scottsboro is 5-7. Southside Gadsden is 9-5. Sylacauga is 8-1. Another team who's knocking on the door to get inside the top 10. Holtville is 7-6. East Limestone is 9-5. Valley is 10-1, and Madison Academy sits at 5-7.
And we'll jump straight into 6A. In 6A, we've got the same 10 teams, and there's not much movement, just a couple swaps here and there. And we mentioned this last week. This is a deep class of teams. Briarwood, they went 2-2 this week. They dropped from 9 to 10. Briarwood, I'm sorry. 0-2. I'm sorry. But those 2 losses were to 7A Chelsea. I apologize. Yes. They went 0-2. But again, those 2 losses were to Chelsea. At number 9, moving up a spot, is Spanish Fort. They went 4-0 this week, and they seem to, not that the ship was off sail, but they seem to have righted that, and they seem to be moving in the right direction. Dropping a spot from 7 to 8 is Pike Road. Pike Road comes in with a record of 10-3. They were 4-1 a week ago. Faith Academy, them and Pike Road just swapped places. Faith Academy went 1-0 last week. They come in with a 7-4 record. And the top 6 teams remained the same. Saraland went 4-0 and currently sit at 11-4. Helena went 1-2, but you saw Helena, and we've been high on Helena all year. Helena was down in that East Alabama Classic. They come in with an overall record of 8-7. but their losses were to
Oak Mountain and Central Phoenix City.
there's nothing there's nothing to be ashamed of there. So
And they beat Auburn.
that's right. I mean, that's 3 big time 7A programs. Helena stays put at 5. Number 3 and number 4, man, they're going to face off tomorrow night. And man, I had one of the players text and ask if I was going to be able to be there. And this hurts me, but I'm not going to be able to be there tomorrow night. But we'll be following it. Gardendale, they went 2-0. They come in at 7-3, as I mentioned, staying put at number 4. Mountain Brook, man, 12-1, rolling right along, 3-1. So tomorrow night, you've got 6A number 3 Mountain Brook and 6A number 4 Gardendale going at it. You mentioned Oxford and that Calhoun County Championship. They did go 3-0 on the week, come in with an 8-4 record and stay put at number 2. And then Hartselle, they did not play a game. I know they have yet to play a home game this year.
I'm sure Coach Miles was happy to be able to sit back for a week, kick his feet up a little bit. They've been through the ringer in the first 2 weeks.
I know, man. And man, they've lost some games. They've lost their home games. Have yet to play a home game due to rain, but they sit at 8-2. And we're going to see them. They're one of the teams that we picked up this week to fill in for us. They're going to come over on Thursday and play James Clemens. That'll be a really good matchup. So we'll see the Tigers again this Thursday. So that's your top 10 in 6A. There are some teams that are right outside the top 10. And as we've prefaced this, we're not going to do a tied for 10th or, we're going to go 10 and leave it at 10. But if there was a number 11, I think it would have to be Athens. Athens has a lot they could very easily be ranked. They went 4-0 this week. I know we had a guy watching them on Saturday. They beat Southside and Scottsboro. They went 4-0 last week. They sit at 9-3. Baldwin County is at 8-5. Benjamin Russell is at 5-4. Homewood is at 7-4. Hueytown, another team that we will see this week due to the having to add some teams. We'll see Hueytown on Saturday. They come in with a record of 9-5.
Maybe I'll see Coach Chandler driving the bus on my way up Wednesday night.
Well, he asked if we could keep him out of the 9 o'clock slot. It's probably because he didn't want to drive the bus that early in the morning. So. Yeah. He'll be up here on Saturday. Look forward to seeing him as always. Pell City has played a brutally tough schedule. They're at 7-5. I know they played Thompson twice this week and lost to them. And then rounding us out for teams to keep an eye on in 6A is Hillcrest Tuscaloosa, who comes in at 6-7. So that will wrap us up through 1 through 6A. I guess we're done. We will see all of you later. Oh, no, never mind. We're not done yet, are we? We've got 7A to do. We've got 7A. We're not going to forget 7A. Man, this is
we got 1,400 people here ready to
and I'm going to say this to you. And this is we're not just saying this. And we mentioned this last week, but even more so this week. We were on the phone last night with Shooter Hunt, who handles all the national rankings across the country. And he was going to join us this morning on our podcast, but he's actually on a flight today. I think he's going across the country to see somebody. But man, I'm going to tell you, before we unveil these rankings, I've told you that we're not going to go with the top 10 and then have somebody tie for 10 so we can get 11 teams in there, and just like we're not going to go a tied for third or tied for first. But I'm going to tell you, there has never been more time spent about the top 3 in 7A as we did this week. Never. And if it would be really, really, really easy for us to go 1A, 1B, and 1C. And I think we're saying the same thing that we said last week, but even more so this week after what happened. Bob Jones goes 4-1 or 5-1, something like that. Central Phoenix City just continues to do what they do. They won all 4 of their games. Thompson, I think they go like 3-1 or no 4-0. Excuse me, 4-0. I apologize. And beat Bob Jones on Saturday, a game that I was at, and a game that was just filtered with high level talent on both sides. This could have gone either way.
All 3 legitimately had a a case to be number one. You look at Thompson, 4-0, arguably, probably the most complete, talented team, I would think. I would say, honestly, Central Phoenix City, blue collar, hard nosed, well coached,
Win. They win.
winners,
Win.
winners. At number and Bob Jones, equally as talented as Thompson. Those big wins over nationally ranked teams last week. And then you look. I mean, these teams have played. Some of these teams have played. Central Phoenix City has the head-to-head over Bob Jones, but that was second day of the season, 35-degree weather, and Bob Jones had a base hit up the middle in the sixth or seventh inning to tie it, and Emery Yam threw the runner out at the home plate. And then you obviously, like I mentioned, Thompson goes on the road to Bob Jones on Saturday and beats him pretty handedly. But speaking about that game, both those teams aren't going to throw their guy. Like Bob Jones isn't going to throw Braden Booth, just because. I mean, there's a high chance that those teams match up again in the later rounds of the playoffs. But and then you go to Bob Jones. I mean, that's their fourth game in 2 days. So there's cases to be made on both sides. So it was a tough decision, but shifting to 7A, the top three stay the same, but we'll start at number 10. We've got one new team inside the top 10 this week, and that's Chelsea, who went 2-0 this past week. And both those 2 wins coming to Briarwood Christian. They sit at 9-5. And number 8 is Enterprise, playing in that Terry Sykes tournament. They went 10-3. They are 10-3 after going 5-1. That one loss coming to the hands of Oak Mountain. And number 8, sliding down a spot, is James Clemens, who went 3-2 this past week. They sit at 12-4. And number 7 is Vestavia Hills, who slide down a spot after going 3-2. I think they played in a spring break tournament down in Florida. And then at number 6 is Spain Park, who sits at 10-5. They went 2-2 this past week, making a huge jump this week. Team that we're very high on, Oak Mountain. Oak Mountain sits at 13-3. They went 5-0 this past week. Big wins, including over Enterprise and a bunch of other teams down there in that Dothan area. And we were high on them. We were high on them before this weekend.
Good luck scoring a bunch of runs on Oak Mountain.
Yeah. So Oak Mountain comes in at number 5, and I hope to see them Wednesday, where I think, and it was on Game Changer. I didn't see it on the other websites, but they've got on their Game Changer they're hosting, or American Christian has it on their Game Changer that they're going to Oak Mountain. So hopefully, I hope that's true. 2 teams I want to see.
If anybody knows that, let us know out in the comment box. Is that game happening on Wednesday?
Yeah. I'm sure Nick McCord's sitting with his hoodie on in math class, just right here. So if he's on, just comment. At number 4, staying put at number 4, Hewitt Trussville, a team I was able to see for a few games this past week in the East Alabama Classic. They went 3-1. That one loss coming to Central Phoenix City, Oak Mountain. There we go. So they sit at number 4. Stay put at number 4.
Our man chimed in too.
There we go. And then staying put at number 3, the top 3 stay the same. At number 3 is Thompson. We've talked about it. 4-0 wins at Bob Jones. At number 2 is Central Phoenix City. Went 4-0 wins over Hewitt Trussville and Helena. And then staying at the top spot, Bob Jones, who went 3-1 this past week. That lost to Thompson. Go ahead.
Before you go to the ones right outside, and we talk, seriously, we were on the call with Shooter Hunt last night, and he mentioned that's 3 teams. Obviously, Bob Jones is at number 18 right now nationally. Central Phoenix City is at 44, and Thompson is just right outside that top 50. So that's that. So that is not laughing at Thompson, laughing at the comment there. But that lets you know, man, again, we've talked about the caliber of baseball. You hear about the Californias and the Texases and the Floridas. Man, Alabama plays high level baseball as well. And, and that's when Shooter said that these are three teams that are in the discussion, to be ranked in that top 50 from Alabama. That says a lot about Alabama.
Yeah, no doubt. So looking at teams just outside the top 10, we've got Auburn, who is 6-4. They went 1-2 this past week, but losses to Hewitt-Trussville and Helena. They beat Tuscaloosa County on Saturday. Baker, man, continues to roll off wins. They went 3-0 this week. I was able to see them against McGill-Tulane. They sit at 12-2 and have got to be banging the screen, saying, "What do we have to do to make it inside the top 10?" But they were right outside. And I know we said it last week. And then you've got Hoover behind them, who sits at 5-8 after going 1-0 this past week. Fairhope also went undefeated this week. They went 2-0 and sit at 8-5. Florence is another team that's jumped onto the radar here in the last week. They sit at 10-4. They went 3-0 this past week, and we were able to see them. Colin Chandler was able to go watch their game against Deschler. I believe it was on Thursday or Friday night. I think it was Thursday night. Well, they were able to win. Opelika went 2-1 this past week. They sit at 10-4. Smith Station went 2-1 this past week. They sit at 7-6. Sparkman is 10-4. That one team to drop out from the top 10 from last week. Tuscaloosa County is 7-6, and then Mary G. Montgomery sits at 10-3, and another team that has a legitimate shot to be in the top 10. And I was down in the Mobile area. Hold on. Thank you, Colin. I was able to see both teams being down in the Mobile area, both Mary G. Montgomery and Baker, and both of them are very similar, I think. And I know that they're big rivals. That'll match up in area play. So both those teams, man, they continue to reel off wins and look to be one of the top teams down in the Mobile area this year.
Hey, throw my man Will's question up there first, can you, before we get to the Power 25?
Okay, yeah. Hold on.
All right, Will, you want a Mountain Brook versus Gardendale score?
What's your score? What's your score? I'm talking to Will.
Yeah, what you got, Will? Throw it in the comments. Austin, we can go ahead and get started with the Power 25 while we're waiting on him, or you want to wait on him, see what he says?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay. So we'll wrap up this podcast by taking a look at our Power 25, see where those teams rank. Change it up a little bit this week. Hopefully it'll be a little easier to read. All right. Austin, you want to take us through there, or you want me to do it?
I've got it. 3 new teams this week. Who's this?
Is that Zach Wyatt, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. So.
Zach, man, I can't argue with you.
He may be right.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with you. I mean, it's razor thin between those three. Will says 8-1 Gardendale. Whoa, that's I agree, and I do think I think it may be a little bit of strength versus strength. Gardendale's bats and Mountain Brook's arms, although Mountain Brook's a complete team. Before I ever predicted a score, I would have to know who the starting pitchers are. So I'm gonna get out of that prediction by not knowing the pitching. So Austin, take us through the Power 25, and we'll wrap this bad boy up as we're approaching 1,700 viewers, man.
Yeah. Starting it off, those 3 teams in Class 7A are
Robichaux.
Those top 3
when I mentioned those Mountain Brook arms, John Robichaux came in. He was a thought. He can swing it a little bit too. So go ahead, Austin.
We've got 3 new teams inside the top 25 this week. And those 3 teams are all from 21st to 25th. At number 25, making a debut this week, you have Pike Liberal Arts, and who's number 1 in Class 2A. They sit at 10-0. They have a win over Enterprise earlier in the season and look to be forming into a powerhouse in Class 2A as they have been at the AISA level. So they come in at number 25 this week. At number 24, another new team, another number one team, and in their class. And that's Bibb County. Bibb County sits at 12-0. At number 23 is Pike Road at 10-3. At number 22 is Mary G. Montgomery at 10-3. At number 21 is Baker at 12-2. At number 20 is Faith Academy at 7-4. At number 19 is Auburn at 6-4. At number 18 is Alexandria at 8-4. At number 17 is Hoover at 5-8. At number 16 is Chelsea at 9-5. At number 15 is Saraland at 11-4. At number 14 is Enterprise at 10-3. At number 13 is James Clemens at 12-4. At number 12 is Helena at 8-7. At number 11 is Vestavia Hills at 7-6. At number 10 is Spain Park at 10-5. At number 9 is Gardendale at 7-3. And then at number 8 is Mountain Brook at 12-1. So a top 10 matchup in the Power 25 squaring off tomorrow night. At number 7 is Oak Mountain, who jumps up 5 spots this week. They sit at 13-3. At number 6 is Oxford, who sits at 8-4. At number 5 is Hartselle at 8-2. At number 4 is Hewitt Trussville at 10-4. And then those top 3 teams stay the same, like we mentioned. Thompson sitting at number 3 with a 12-5 record. And number 2 is Central Phoenix City with a 14-1 record. And then staying at the top spot is Bob Jones, who sits at 12-3.
Well, man, there you have it. Man, we're at a top of 1,771 viewers, man. 1,770. It's still going up. We appreciate all of you jumping on, and we're looking forward to this week. We appreciate the comments from the comment boxes. As I mentioned earlier, be on the lookout for our content, our regular content that goes out this week. We'll be previewing that North Alabama Showdown as it begins on Thursday in the Huntsville area at James Clemens High School and at Hazel Green High School. But again, we want to thank you for jumping on. This has been an incredible show, the most viewed show we've had. And, we want to continue helping spread the word about Alabama baseball and spread the word about Alabama baseball. Zach, if that is Zach Wyatt, the score was Thompson 10, Bob Jones 5. That's correct. So, man, again, we appreciate you, all of you getting involved and following this along. And who knows, next week, next week, tell me who those rankings may be changed. So
Bob Jones has beaten Cartersville.
Yep.
Out of Georgia, who is one of the top programs in Georgia. They've beaten Wesleyan Christian.
Oh, that question up there.
Who is Wesleyan Christian, who's national number 1 rank in number 1 team in North Carolina.
Peachtree Ridge. They beat a Georgia Tech signee. It was a weird box score. So they've got some good wins and obviously got some losses. And here's the good thing about it is once we get out to once we get to area play, it doesn't matter if you're ranked first or ranked 178th. So again, appreciate those comments, and we appreciate you listening. We enjoy doing this, and if there's nothing else, we will see you at the park and hopefully see you next week on our podcast. Again, thanks again. This has been a fantastic show.